Hello, warriors. Captain's log. Stardate 12/12. Oh man, we're in the portal vibe, and it's been heavy. Let's see. Today, I had my final dental appointment with my oral surgeon that went absolutely nowhere. He's like, there's nothing I can do for you. And I'm like, great. I'm so glad that I've wasted another year for that answer. And then that was like earlier than early. I was up so early for that. I came home and I went to bed at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it is now 1 o'clock in the morning. Oh man, like I give up. I surrender. I surrender some more. My life is not my own. And I want to talk about something that I think that I might lose a lot of people because they'll be, I can already hear the arguments against this because, listen, I in my own head, I'm arguing against it in a lot of ways. So with the energies that I'm sitting in and what I'm contemplating, I want to talk about relationship. I want to talk about partnership, particularly, and where I am energetically with that on this awakening journey. Because if you're on a twin flame journey, a Kundalini awakening, a spiritual awakening, whatever kind of awakening you're having, you will go through a period of isolation. You will be put into the penalty box, and a period of time you will be on your own. You will be celibate for a period of time. This is a common theme. Granted, not everybody. Some people wake up and have their awakening in marriages that aren't a dysfunctional shit show like mine was. And so maybe those people can do their own YouTube video and talk about it from their perspective. But I'm doing my YouTube video talking about my experience, which from my research is a very common experience. And I completely and utterly understand it, the reasons for it, as well as the benefits and the crappiness that comes along with it. So let's first talk about our programming as societal, as well as it's not just programming because it's based on biological needs, okay? So when we are born as humans, we are not crabs. Crabs, they get born and they are like, I'm free, I'm off, now I gotta find my way to the beach. Bye, Mom, that was fun. Like, that's it. The parental responsibility is done, and they're off living their own independent, sovereign life. Humans, on the other hand, come out like this. Completely and utterly dependent upon another human to care enough to feed them, to clothe them, to change them, to nurture them, to shelter them, to have all of their needs provided, because they're we're born and we're a lump of like nothing. Like we got no skills, man. We got no skills whatsoever. So the mammal in us is reliant upon community, not just parent, but like community. We are social, we are in that regard more like bees, we need the collective to keep us alive. And there's been many studies that have shown that it's not just the basics of needs, of food, shelter, and warmth. It is also the need of emotional connection. You know, they've done millions of studies in orphanages around the world that children that aren't held just die. Like they give up. They're like, what's the point in this place? I'm out of here. I'm tapping it. You know, so we've got these physiological needs, and then we also have these emotional needs. And then we go on to have this mental programming that comes along with it, this need of attachment that we believe. So there's a belief about that we carry with us. And so the problem is our development over the last thousands of years has been so influenced by trauma. And, you know, that just goes back. I've done a million videos on trauma. We've got a long-standing history of substance abuse in our history that goes back. We've got wars. We've got poverty. We've got ancestral woundings. We've got cultural woundings, racism, colonialization, religious abuses. We've got the Great Depression and massive shifts in consciousness from feudal times to capitalistic times, from the age of, the Dark Ages to the age of reason, whatever, which is all, this conscious development of humanity that has propped up this system of dysfunction, so that in the very core of relationship, it has been a toxic structure. It has been a toxic structure. How we have, societally kept the society together is through forced marriage and child marriage, which, is sick and still goes on to today. But in even not 200 years ago, not even 100 years ago, a child bride was perfectly acceptable, and marriage was seen for business, prospects. Females were basically chattel and sold off. And so the patriarchy completely robbed her of her own autonomy. Her very survival depended upon getting married, or, heaven forbid she was a spinster, and then some family member would have to take care of her because she had no capability of taking care of herself financially. And so we've got this really fucked up, warped system that has kept us going. And then we're trapped in these systems that, divorce for the longest time was seen as the biggest taboo in the entire world. Shock, horror. Now more than 50% of marriages end in divorce because of the degree of dysfunction that's in the relationship. So we've got dysfunctional patterning that comes to partnership. We've got dysfunctional patterning when it comes to family structures. We've got dysfunctional patterning within the community. So we're no longer a tribal community that, there used to be an expression that a child, it's fallen right out of my head, needs an entire community to help raise one child, or something along those lines. I think that maybe if you were born deep within the Amazon and you're completely detached from Western civilization, that it's very likely that you aren't as fucked up as we all are. I would put money on that, in fact, that they're living with the natural rhythms of the land and the rhythms of the world around them and the natural processes that go along with all of that. So I would say, I'm going to hazard a guess that they have a lot less trauma. I don't know, because I've never gone and spent time within these tribal cultures. I mean the ones that are completely detached. I don't mean the ones that have been like colonized and are impoverished on the borders. I mean the ones that are completely detached. And there are still very few, but there are still a couple of tribal culture in the world. There's one off Madagascar, which will even murder you if you try to like get onto their island and bring them Jesus. Don't go there. And then there's ones deep in the Amazon that have remained completely untouched. So, but for those of us that it hasn't been completely untouched, we have dysfunction within dysfunction within dysfunction. And I put my hand up right away and say, listen, my entire reality has been dysfunctional and toxic. You know, I was born to a couple that were too young to, you know, properly care for a child. One got himself in trouble with drugs and the law and ended up going to jail, leaving the mother, alone without the financial resources that she needed. And she ended up putting me into foster care and Children's Aid Society. So a government agency to take control of my beingness, which placed me in the care of what on paper looked like a good option, but in reality was a very abusive household growing up. So I have a long history of toxicity and dysfunction. So I'm just been marinated in that. I've just been marinated in it. And so when you take all of that and you combine it with my biological needs, my physiological needs, my emotional needs, my mental needs, these are fundamental needs. They weren't met fully. And so I developed, like everyone else, maladaptive coping strategies on how to survive the world and find community, find partnership, find love. So we hit a certain age and it's all about the dating. And you know, that would for me been in the 80s, and in the 80s, I was already, I'm early. I'm always early and ahead of my time. In the 80s, there was still a lot of like stigma around females, you know, being more promiscuous. But because I have a history of sexual abuse, promiscuous activity, those two things go hand in hand. And it was what I knew. It was what I knew. I didn't know any other. This is how you get partnership, isn't it? You know, and now it's even worse because now it's promoted. We have all these apps that are available. We have all this like pornography that's available. We have all this like warped view of what relationship and sexuality is supposed to be look like, because like pornography is not an example of healthy sexuality. It's not like the Healthy Sexuality channel and we get to see like a couple respecting each other and treating each other well and, you know, nice. Oh, honey, you look nice today. You know, I like the way your hair. Nobody would watch that. Well, maybe I would actually. But, you know, so we've got an example. It's like a free-for-all now. So we went from these like, the pendulum is swung too far, which is what always happens, is we've gone from this religious, puritanical, marry you off at 14, steal your autonomy, dogma, and stay in that marriage. It doesn't matter if you're happy being abused or anything else is going on. You just stick it out because you've got nothing else to say or nowhere else to go or no other way to survive. To this other extreme on the other end, which is just fuck anyone. And, you know, oh, that was a fun night. See you later. What was your name again? I don't remember. Whatever. And scroll to the next. And so now people are like swiping right or swiping left. I don't know which way they're swiping. And we've got these examples of sexuality that are like so toxic and so distorted. And sex addiction is massively alive and well, but it's something that it's not as, it can be hidden in plain sight a lot easier. Like, it's no big deal. And then we have people cheating on each other left, right, and center, like zero loyalty. I've recently, and I don't know why they started coming across my TikTok feed. I'm rarely on social media, but I was scrolling and I found these videos of these women that, and men, I suppose, that find their partner's Tinder profile and then they film it, and it's a thing on Tinder where you're like, look, I just found my partner's Tinder, and they set their partner up with, you know, meeting them where they're supposed to. They basically catfish their own husband and go like, I found your Tinder profile, and I know you're supposed to be meeting her. Where is she? Is she in the bathroom? And it's like a 60-second clip, and you're like, oh my God, you know, like that's where relationship has gotten to. Relationship has got to it's just so dysfunctional. And so on a spiritual awakening, without your choice, spirit is going to take away all the dysfunction, right? So the dysfunctional marriage that's based on lies, like mine, was stripped away from me. And thank God for that. You know, I am grateful beyond belief that I was able to escape from that marriage. I hadn't been able to escape. And if it hadn't have been, as I've said a million times, I will always be grateful for that twin flame activation and the love inside my heart, as, you know, whatever it was, it motivated me to get out. I am grateful for the embodiment of soul that made me scream out, I want a divorce. I am grateful for the embodiment of soul that made me scream out, like Kundalini herself embody me and scream out, get the fuck out of my house. And finally get this exceptionally toxic person away from me that was physically making me ill. You know, like, you just have to see my before photos of what I was like in 2019. It was so fucked up. In the dysfunction that was relationship, I was overweight. I was like riddled with diseases. I was emotionally like just zombified on all the pharmaceuticals that I was taking to tolerate the abuse, that I didn't understand what was happening because I was so mentally fucked with. I was failing Alzheimer's tests, you know, because the confusion of being in a constant state of cognitive dissonance for such a long period of time messed with my own mind, you know. So like, when somebody fucks with your mind to the extent that you lose it, you're literally losing your mind, you're literally losing your health. Like that's serious dysfunction. So it is. I have to absolutely put my hand up to that. And the problem is when you're in serious dysfunction, you don't necessarily see how serious the dysfunction is because it's become your normal. And dysfunction and toxicity in society has become normal. It's become like socially acceptable, you know? Oh, I'm having an affair. Yeah, don't bother me right now, wife that I'm supposed to love. I'm about to meet this girl and I don't want you to like upset her. Like, these TikTok videos are crazy. They're a little bit crazy. And there's the Reddit stream that I went down that rabbit hole one time. Am I the asshole? And you read these stories of what's happening, and you're like, what is going on in relationship? What is going on? Like, it's like, oh my God, no, you're not the asshole. That's fucked up shit. So spiritual kundalini twin flame situation comes along, and as I've described it, it's like the trauma bond that ends all trauma bonds, because it's something that you are magnetically pulled towards, which pulls you out of any karmic situation that you're in, and then disappears. And it needs to disappear, and leaves you on your own, leaves you in a state of isolation for a period of time. As I said, I call it the penalty box. As in God saying, listen, you, I've left you to your own devices, and you couldn't have got it more wrong, and so I'm now going to leave you on your own to think about what you've done. Okay, yeah, thinking about what I've done. And yeah, I've been thinking for 4 years, 4.5 years now, of a slowly smaller and smaller world as people left my life. First couple years, I still had my son and his girlfriend living with me, and I had soul kids living with me. And now I've been, since the summer, completely on my own, like completely and utterly isolated and on my own. And like, I don't see people. Like, I very rarely see people. I see people on Zoom, but like, I'm not out in the world. I'm living in this, I'm cloistered in this B&B, which is, it's lovely, it's quiet, it's fabulous. And that's where God has put me. It's closer and closer away from people. First I moved one place and I was like, oh, this is great, I'm going to be in a community. And God's like, no, you're not. I want you alone. I want you alone. I need you to think about what you've done. I need you to think about what created the toxicity that was your life, how you got there. If you don't take ownership of how you got there, and when I say ownership, it's not about blame, it's about recognizing the patterning that you involuntarily were was created for you, that you then took on as your own patterning. So for me, that meant, weird attachment styles, because my attachment was unnatural when you are adopted and then and moved. So I was like, who am I supposed to plug into? I don't know who I'm supposed to plug into now. Am I supposed to plug into this mother? Oh, fuck no. Maybe I can try to plug into my brother. Maybe I can try to plug into this new father. Maybe I can try to plug into friends. Maybe I can try to plug in to men. Where am I supposed to go? So I've been walking around with this attachment style that would be like a very anxious attachment styling. So, okay, I'm understanding that. And, oh, look, because of these abuses that I experienced, now I show up in the world in a certain way. And so it's like, I thought that I was trash. That was the indoctrination, is that I was trash. So if I'm trash, I've got to like dress my trash up the best I can in attempt to lure myself somebody, because I don't want them to see who I really am. I don't want a man to see me. So instead, I'm going to put a lot of makeup on my face, and I'm going to put my boobs up to here, and I'm going to wear these high heels and these Spanx and squeeze myself into something so that I can go out in the world and be alluring, and maybe they're not going to see my wounds. Maybe they're not going to see who I truly am, because who I truly am is a really insecure woman who has all these wounds, and I don't want you to see those wounds. I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to be authentic. I don't want to be real. And on top of that, I'm autistic, but I don't know that I'm autistic. So Jesus, I better not do any of the weird shit that I do. So I'm going to use cigarettes to like stim, because that's a socially acceptable stim, and it gives me a whole bunch of feeling like, okay, like it's like calms my nervous system like dramatically. God, I still to this day miss cigarettes, by the way. And then, I need to go out and like attract a mate. Well, I have severe anxious attachment style, so I'm going to just drink copious amounts of alcohol to help me with that process, so that I can be funny and gregarious and social, and just give me another shot of tequila, and I'll dance on a table for you if that's what it's going to take to hook me somebody. But the problem is, it's all false advertising, because what I actually want underneath all that is partnership. And I want you to care about me, and I want you to like me, and I want you to love me. Only I'm not showing you who I am. I'm in a mask. I'm completely and utterly masked, and have all these wounds that are energetically attracting predators. And so through my awakening and my isolation and my celibacy and I've been forced to look and address, my own codependent behaviors, my own disempowerment as a woman, in a patriarchal society, how I myself participated in my own degradation and my own repressing of self, and how in me has all these wounded aspects of self that so desperately yearns to be seen, to be heard, to be understood, to be valued, to be, recognized for who I truly am. And, that process, it has been brutal. That's the process of the dissolving, going into the shadow. I always say, you need to go into the muck to unfuck. Okay, so that's what I've been doing. I've been unfucking one thing after another since 2019. And it's like, at some stages, it was like every month. What am I unfucking this month? Oh, this month I'm giving up this. This month I'm changing that. This, like, literally every behavior I ever once had that like propped up this dysfunctional way of being and relating to people in the world completely collapsed. All of it, every single one of my relationships completely disintegrated. The only relationship that I still have in my life is my son, and that has transformed in a I would hope, a healthier way. He's a grown man, so he's off doing his own thing, and so I'm giving him space to do his own thing. And I would like to do a video at some point in the future of how the responsibility of a parent through a spiritual awakening and maintaining relationship with children, because of our own dysfunction that we have been in, we've caused wounding to our children. But that's not today's video. So I've lost absolutely everyone, and have had to face self over and over and over again, and see what is toxic and what is healthy, and replace it with healthy, more to the point, because I look back at my life and I'm like, was anything I was doing, healthy? Not really. The amount of things that are socially acceptable doesn't mean that they're healthy, because I wasn't like, I was blending in society. That was the point. I wasn't standing out as in the extreme of like, look at this crazy woman who's totally out of control. I was doing my best to blend with everybody, blend in my fashion, blend in how I showed up, blend in how I talk, blend in how, like anything and everything, the alcohol, the behaviors of this is what you do, this is how you live your life, which is what is like the social norm. And one of the books that I have that's on my reading list, I've already read about half of it, is The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate, another one that I'm going to highly recommend, because society has this myth that all of this stuff that I'm talking about is normal, you know, all the substances that we use, socially acceptable. Our dating patterning, socially acceptable. Our marriage dysfunction, totally socially acceptable. You know, like nobody bats an eye anymore if like somebody cheats. It's not like, oh my God, now we have to sew a letter on your chest and you must walk around the community with a giant IA, you know, for adulterer, embroidered on your dress. You know, that's not what happens anymore. It's like, oh, they cheated? Yeah, whatever. You know, everybody cheats. It's no big deal. Everybody lies. It's no big deal. You know, and my ex even said that to me once. He was like, everybody lies. And I was like, I don't. And they're like, he's like, you know, white lies are totally acceptable. And I'm like, what? What do you mean white lies are totally acceptable? How if we're all lying, then like, but even, you know, in my own, so like I was thrown off by that, but in my own investigation into myself I was a liar too. I was lying to myself. I was lying to myself that I was happy in a marriage that I was not happy in. I was lying to myself that it wasn't dysfunctional and abusive. I was lying to myself that I could fix it, that I was lying to myself that I was, you know, not obese. I was in total denial about that. Like, I was in total denial about that. So I don't know if that's so much lying to yourself as just total denial that it was as bad as it was, you know? So the more we are honest with ourselves and the more we are authentic with ourselves in this gift that is complete and utter isolation, which peels off every layer of falsity and replaces it with authenticity. And that is a learning curve, because you're like, the things that you thought that you liked, you realize, actually, I don't even like that. Like, my birthday just passed and I had plans to go to a restaurant that was like one of my favorite restaurants that I used to go to. And I thought I was looking forward to it. And then the day of my birthday arrives and I was like, I don't want to go to a restaurant and be around people and noise and cutlery banging on plates and music overhead and like sharp lighting and people talking and no, that's not me. That's who I was. That's not who I am. Who I am is this like middle-aged autistic woman that just wants to stay home and order food in and play board games. So I changed plans and my son and his girlfriend came over and we played board games. That was like so much fun. It was a great time. And so we learned that, okay, these things that I once thought that I liked because it was almost indoctrinated into liking, I don't actually like. So this time on your own is necessary for figuring out who we actually are. Like, underneath the makeup, underneath the clothes, underneath the patterning, the behaviors, who are you really? Like, who are you really? And then underneath all that, we discover our wounds and we go through this crazy process of soul retrieval and bringing back and all the fractured aspects of selves that trauma shoved into shadow, and we ourselves shoved into shadow. So, these traumatic experiences happened to me. Part of me shoved them into the shadow. I was talking about repressed memories. If you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend it. But there was a lingering element that was this programming that I was trash. And so I shoved that into shadow. I don't want people to know that I'm trash. I want people to think that I'm something else. But so we have to sit with these dark, shadowy aspects of ourselves and integrate them back in. The wounded child, the traumatized child, the femme fatale persona, all the parts, the saboteur, the victim, all of us, and reintegrate ourselves so that the community that we once saw in others, the parent, the mother role, the father role, the friend, the cheerleader, is all us. It's all us. We become a self-contained community of us, all our me's, our little mini me's. We're gathering them all up and basically going through a process of reparenting. And in that, we go through a phase of spiritual maturation. So throughout my awakening, there's been times that I'm like, I feel like I'm 2, I feel like I'm 12, I feel like I'm this, and even it's funny because I think if you looked back over my last 800 plus videos over the last 4 years, you can see distinctly phases that I was going through where I'm expressing that integrated self back out. There were times when I was really in a rebellious teenager phase and shaved my head and was wearing a mohawk again. And there were other phases where I was just going through different energies. And that's what I felt like being in that moment, in that now, pink hair or whatever. I was like, I'm integrating this wounded teenager. I'm integrating this wounded woman. I'm integrating. And I, throughout my awakening, would make extreme shifts. Sometimes dramatically on the dime. I went through my wardrobe and it helped because I was losing weight. So I needed to replace my wardrobe a couple times over. And I shifted from, really, there was one store I used to buy all of my clothes at. It was Le Chateau. And I'm like, this is my wardrobe. This is my look. This is my identity. And then boom, I did a dramatic shift. And all of a sudden I'm wearing completely different clothes that were much more girly for a period of time. And then boom, I'm into this inner masculine energy. And all I want to wear is Vans t-shirts. That's it. I'm like, get me more Vans t-shirts and hoodies. That's all I want to live in. Which are comfortable, by the way. And then I'm like, but wait a second, now I want to reintegrate some more of my girliness again. And it's been identity shifts along this way as I've been expressing these wounded aspects of self that have come back into integration to bring me to a place of spiritual maturation. And when you go through spiritual maturation independently and on your own, how you relate to people is going to change. So the people that you once resonated with, you no longer resonate with. The idea of me going to a bar and hanging out with drinkers, I would rather poke my eyes with forks. No. But that was a huge aspect of my identity for a very long time in my life. And, interacting in certain environments with certain people doing certain things has been a hard no. And I've cleaned out my closets, because I've moved and downsized to next to nothing. And along it, I was I'm sure most women, I had my intimate drawer. And I looked at my intimate drawer and I'm like, this is all going in the garbage. This is all going in the garbage. I will never sexualize myself for a man. I just not knowing now what I know about myself and knowing what I've been through, I made a commitment to myself that I would honor my body. I would be the first to start honoring my body. And so through this awakening, I've been very grateful for my celibacy in honoring my body. My body is a temple. So there's multiple aspects to this that all come together that bring me to where I am today. And where I am today, and there's been so much grief along it, because as you're integrating all these aspects of yourself back into wholeness and going through this spiritual maturation, you're mourning the loss of what was, because it wasn't what you now recognize. It wasn't what you deserved. Like, I deserved to be a little 12-year-old and, have my hand held for the first time and have one of those moments. That wasn't part of my storyline. I didn't have that moment where, you're cutely flirting with somebody and they, hold your hand, or, the first kiss, that comes when, is an innocent moment. My first kiss was a drunken, sloppy mess. So it was. And so you grieve a lot of wishing it had been different, and seeing your life in a perspective of through the lens of toxicity. When you take that lens of toxicity, which was normal, and you process through the woundings, there's so much grief. Like, there's just so much grief. And I'm still grieving. I wanted nothing more than to have partnership and have marriage the way that I, fantasized it to be. I don't even know if that actually exists in the world. I don't know if it exists. I have yet to see examples. Well, I have seen examples of other people that look kind of happy, but I haven't had the example of experience of what divine partnership looks like. And even for that matter, like, understanding within me what a divine feminine is. Pulling my own divine feminine energy up out of toxicity, which is manipulative energy, and luring people in, and as well integrated my own divine masculine energy, which is the protector that says, ain't gonna touch this. Nobody gonna touch this. She's mine. She's mine now, and I'm going to learn boundaries and learn how to say no and learn how to command. So as my own divine masculine energy has integrated, I have learned things that I lacked before, because I never had an example in my life of a divine masculine. Because there are none in toxic situations and in toxic families and in toxic myth of normal societies. Where are the examples of divine feminine and divine masculine and then divine union? Where are the examples? They're few and far between. The mass majority is toxic. And so I have been integrating for the last few weeks and processing through, balancing the energies of my own inner masculine and feminine, so that I can bring myself into a place of wholeness and unification within self. A commenter actually left a comment on the recent twin flame video I did saying, are we supposed to switch with a narcissistic energy? No, that's not what I meant. And I'm sorry if that was the interpretation. What I was talking about was the unification and bringing ourselves into balance of feminine and masculine into a place where I have healthy ego. And I shouldn't have used the word narcissist because that's only one part, but that's only one paradigm. That may not be everybody's paradigm, but in mine, it was like this empath of over-giving in relationship and people-pleasing and fawning to the nth degree that I had no ego, no healthy ego that was showing up in a king energy and a masculine energy of protecting self, of saying, you ain't going near, like being my own bouncer. I needed a bouncer. Is what I needed to like bounce off any drunken fools in my life. I needed a father figure that was, reiterating and programming that you are valuable, you're not trash, you're you're worthy, you're wonderful. I needed a king that was going to command, no. This is a boundary and you may not cross it. And if you cross it, there's going to be consequences for that. And I needed these types of masculine energies. So I've been like out searching high and low on the TV, on YouTube, and finding different speakers and in books, examples of healthy masculine energy so that I could emulate that within myself and integrate within that myself. And that's been my mission for the last couple of weeks. And I'm very grateful for some healthy examples of masculinity that I have finally discovered. And I'm like, yes, I need to be more like that. It's not about I want a man like that. It's about I need to be more like that. I need to protect myself more like that. But, and this is where the but problem comes in, all this healing work is fabulous, but still inside of me, I am recognizing in the energy that we currently are in this 12-12 porter, this sad longing, this still grieving of partnership. And, it's left me questioning, am I going to, and questioning God, am I a monk now? Is that what I am? Is that what the transformation is? And I was even watching a YouTube video on a Buddhist monk who was talking about his lifelong commitment to celibacy. And I'm like, is that actually who I am now? Is that what's going on? And I see these examples in society of all these women that are very much like, oh no, I'm good. I'll never date again. And I'm like, is that what is happening for me? Is that where I'm being led? Because at the core of me, I can still feel a wanting. And I'm like, uh-oh, this is a problem, because it's in wanting that we suffer. It is in wanting something, anything, anyone outside of us that creates suffering, because it's like saying, I'm not happy with what is. The what is in my penalty box, in my isolation, is lonely. I'm still feeling lonely, which is telling me, my body, that I'm not happy or I'm not at peace in my solitude. Lonely and solitude are two totally different things. And I want to be fully in my sovereignty, which means solitude is peace. But there's these lingering programs that tell us, I'm not a crab, I'm a human, I need people. And if there's need, whatever you need controls you. And so on our spiritual maturation, we reach this level that we are supposed to come to as humans, where we transcend the need of the partnership and of the parent and of the community and are able to be fully sovereign. But that's not promoted in society. Promoted in society is this notion that you are always supposed to be in community for the rest of your life. That is what's healthy. That is what's normal. But is it? And this is where I'm scared I'm going to lose people, because what I believe Spirit is trying to teach me in this lonely, in this longing, in this mourning of partnership as I knew it, in this is to become fully a self-contained unit, which means I am at peace fully and completely without any longing, needing, yearning, wanting of anything or anyone outside of myself. I am ascending up out of the programming that says I am still a child, or I am still, stuck in community. I'm sending out of that. I'm reaching self-actualization, which is like pulling yourself together, all your parts, so that you yourself are whole. And in so doing, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs starts as a triangle. It's a pyramid, and the bottom is the widest, which is our tribal consciousness. And as we move up from tribal consciousness, the next is kind of our social interactions, and we move from our big tribe into societal or cultural conditioning, into our interpersonal world that is, smaller interconnections with more people, and then romantic love relationships that's two people. And then at the very top, it's you. It's you. That's it. Spiritual maturation is you. It's the divine union in you. And that means that you are able to find true peace, joy, with self, completely and utterly in self. But we still have this, especially those that are on the twin flame journey, this notion of like divine love outside of yourself, like a man showing up and completing you, and this, that, and the other. So the signifier is, as long as there is something in me that needs, that yearns, that wants, that desires, I am not whole. That is the same as saying I am not self-contained. I am not the star that is the singular. And this is very challenging. It's very challenging for me because I spent my entire life wanting to be loved. I wanted that more than anything. And on this journey, I've had to learn to self-love myself. Self-love myself through the perspective of the mother and remother myself. Self-love myself through the perspective of the father and refather myself. Self-love myself through the perspective of friend and be my own friend. And now I'm being asked to self-love myself in divine partnership in myself. In myself. No man outside of myself. Because there is no man outside of myself that could fill anything, because then I'm not seeing myself as whole. And this is challenging. This is really challenging, because I think a lot of people on this journey are like, yeah, but I'm going to end up in relationship, aren't I? And what I'm sitting and facing and transmuting and alchemizing is accepting, fully and completely accepting, that I am not in relationship, and that it's quite possible I won't ever be in relationship, and that would be okay. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen or what's not going to happen. I can't foresee the future. That's the point. The point is not, if there is hope, then there is still more work to do. If there's like, oh, I hope I'm going to like this, because there's within the hope, there is still a longing, a yearning of something that isn't. And we need to be fully and completely accepting what is. And what is I am not in divine partnership. Any divine partnership is me. So any masculine energy that I want is within me. And I need to provide. I can be the provider. I can be, which I can now, I can be the one that like is my own chauffeur. I can do that for myself now. I can be the one that holds me and strokes my cheek when I'm having a rough time. I can be the one, anything that they can give me, I can give me. And I can be okay, fully, completely okay, being alone. And until I reach mastery, just like all the other things that we've had to master along this journey, it's self-mastery. So I have to master celibacy. I mastered that one. That one's easy. I have to master desire for external validation. Yeah, I've done pretty well on that one. I have to master yearning for a divine partner to show up, which means fully and completely accepting being alone. Like completely accepting being alone. Not like, yeah, I accept I'm alone, but maybe one day I'm going to have, like, no. I mean, fully and completely accepting what is, which means what is could be what always is. It means transmuting the wound or that inner place of need. As long as there is need, God will not give you any divine partnership, is my personal opinion on this whole journey. You know, I've been trying to figure this journey out from the beginning. And as long as there's a need in you, a yearning, anything, a wanting, a craving, like as long as there's anything there that is seeking anything outside of yourself, anything, anyone or anything outside of yourself, it will remain as it is until you have mastered it. Until you've mastered it. And it's hard as fuck. It is hard as fuck. And especially when, you've got like wounds attached to it, which, as I've shared, one of the things that my mother said to me, one of the last things she ever said to me before she died was, no one will ever love you. And so I have to sit in that. If that is one of my wounds, I have to sit in that and say, if no one ever loves me again, can I find peace in that? Can I find peace in that? Otherwise, if I don't find peace in that, what I am doing is I am feeding that wounded part of me, that consciousness that is not self-actualized consciousness, not ascended consciousness, but the consciousness of needing on a lower level. And I repeat back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. As long as, Maslow's hierarchy of needs on a psychological perspective should have a life chart on it, like an ages and stages. No different than the chakra systems. Each chakra represents a certain life phase. So the root chakra is like life phase ages 1 to 7. It's what the root chakra is supposed to be cultivated and developed. And then it goes, sacral chakra is 7 to 14. And that's all about interpersonal skills, which makes sense. So 7 to 14, we're out on the playground, we're getting to know each other, we're having friends, we're learning boundaries, we're learning how to interrelate, and then we move up into the solar plexus. And so this on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which, intermeshes with the chakra system, both teachings are kind of hand in hand, is teaching more about self. So then from 14 to 21, we're learning who we're supposed to be. If you had a healthy development, we're supposed to be learning who we are as a single person, but who am I? Who am I? And then 21 to 28, where it's all about the romance. The heart chakra is coming in. And so our world is getting smaller and smaller and smaller when it comes to the people and community. And so this is our stage of learning how to interconnect with a person on a healthy level. These are all if it's healthy, right? But our society, as I said, isn't healthy. It's not developing the way it's supposed to. And if it's healthy, we get to 2021, 28, and then we get from 28 upwards into the throat chakra, which is about authenticity and speaking our truth. And this is leading us up to the higher chakras, which is leading us up to our connection with the divine and singularity. Singularity, where there is the coming together and the singular point, singular self-actualization point. And so this awakening journey is lifting us up out of tribe mind. So yes, I'm not arguing you that we need people. We did need people between the ages of 1 and 7. Then we were supposed to transmute that and need less people, the needing of the less people. And then we were supposed to need even less people. And then we were supposed to need even less people until the point where we are supposed to need no people. No people. Reach the level of self-actualization, reach the level of the singular point, the bringing together of the masculine and the feminine energy within self, so that we are connected to the divine and we can ascend up as a self-contained unit, as just ourselves. So it's not easy letting go of need. There is a lot of grief involved. And if you're grieving what you thought your life was supposed to look like, but didn't, and if you're grieving you wish your life looked like in the future, but isn't, it's okay. Grieve it fully. Fully grieve it. Grieve it, cry, wail, scream, comfort yourself, and accept yourself fully, completely in your singular form, is the mission right now, is what I feel is the mission. And if that means that I am a monk now, not how I thought I wanted my life to be, but until I am happy in the energy of monkdom and be completely 100% okay with it, then I'm not ready for the expansion that happens on the other side. I'm not ready for that. And I think that's why we are in this isolation. It's my theory, it's my working theory, I'm going with it, that once we master singularity of self, we will experience new things, but we need to reach mastery first. Otherwise, we're just repeating old patternings, and I don't ever want to do that again. And then we get to redefine things from a completely unknown, because there's no patterning for that. So what is it going to look like? Like, what does that look like? When we hit the choice point, the turning point, the tipping point, the point of no return, and we reach singularity, physics, and my mind's not into the physics, but physics would say we then begin to expand outward again. And so we then go into, splitting into, so like, this is actually ties in very much to the Mayan philosophy, is what's tying into the teachings that I'm seeing right now in my mind's eye. So I don't know if you know about the Mayan philosophies. So the Mayan teachings talk about, that choice point being 2012, the end of times. And how it was represented was in a pyramid. Also, pyramid structure is very important when it comes to sacred geometry. And if you've ever been to Chichen Itza, I don't know if you've been to Chichen Itza. I have. It was quite awe-inspiring. So the Mayan pyramids aren't like all flat. They're like steps, right? So they're steps up. And the bottom step represents periods of time. So they represent 7 days and 7 nights. And when I say 7 days and 7 nights, I certainly do not mean a 24-hour clock. A day and a night was an entire epoch, a period of time where there was growth and expansion, and then there was contraction and darkness. And, the bottom layer of the pyramid would be, thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years for one day, and then hundreds of thousands of years for one night, and and as I said, this would go across, and it would be like huge. And then the next layer of the pyramid, the days and the nights got shorter. So then maybe it would be just thousands of years for a day, and thousands of years for a night, and again, 7. And then the next would be like hundreds of years, and then hundreds of years, and hundreds of years, hundreds of years. So flipping back and forth between these two energies. And then, years and years and years, and then months and months and months, and then days and days and days. So leading us up to 2012, and a lot of people are like, time's speeding up. Yeah, well, the Mayans knew this. So what we were seeing before 2012 was that the time of these days and the months were almost in like really short periods of time, like very short periods of time. I don't know the exact, but like, let's say it was 10 days in the day cycle, and then it would be 10 days into the night cycle, and then it would be 10, maybe then it was like 1 day, I don't know, maybe then it was hours, I don't know exactly the specific. And then you hit the choice point where time ends, and time doesn't actually end. What happens is once we hit that choice point, the peak of the pyramid is we flip to the other side. So it becomes an inversion. And so we've been going this period of time up, 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 up. And then the inversion happens and we go up, 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 up. So it's an inverted pyramid, an upside down pyramid. And so time is then day, night, day, night, day, night, really fast, working its way into an expansion. So we've shifted ages, But in the inversion, it's become the polarization of the energy that this entire epoch was. So this also ties into astrology that says, this could be looked at as Age of Pisces, and we've hit this choice point, and we've entered a new, which is the Age of Aquarius. And so the whole way of doing things. So this, according to the Mayans, this pyramid was all about the 3D world and everything that's happening that's in the physical. And now we've hit the choice point, and now we're in the 5D world, which is opening ourselves to a whole new consciousness and a whole new way of being. This pyramid would represent the masculine. Well, patriarchy has definitely been in charge all this time, and now we hit this choice point represented by the inverted pyramid, which would be the feminine energy, which ties into everything that's taught about the Age of Aquarius. And so we have entered, okay? We're already in this system. So if we are in this system, what we are experiencing right now is like the beginning stages of being isolated and being alone and being in singularity and relearning and getting in touch with our divine feminine and strengthening our heart chakra and all these other teachings to like clear out the density that was the 3D world and moving into this 5D world, and it's everything's inverted, everything's in opposites, nothing makes sense, everything's confusing. And so we're going to expand into new types of community, new family structures, and new definitions of what coupling looks like. Coupling isn't going to look the way that coupling worked before, because the way coupling worked before in the 3D world, in this masculine patriarchal system, was bullshit. And so but what does it look like? We don't know, because it's never been modeled before. It's never been modeled before. We are going to model that once we master our singularity, which means fully and completely being self-contained without needing. So that means relationships that come together with no needing, with no yearning, that just are coexisting. Two fully developed human beings in spiritual wholeness that can coexist. And that means, for me, I will never live with a man. I will never marry a man. But to coexist with a man would be lovely. Have I ever seen that modeled in the world? No, because we're in the new world. We're already in the new world. Everybody keeps waiting for the new world. We're in it. But we're just at the first aspect. We're just at these, as I said, these 7 days, which goes day period, night period, light period, dark period, contraction period, expansion period. And I would hazard a guess that we're at the teeny tiny tip, and we're moving our way into this 1,000-year cycles, 100,000-year cycles eventually as we work our way through this. So I'm finding it fascinating that all these teachings are coming and intermingling and intermeshing one on top of each other. And I thank Spirit for all these messages, because I needed to hear them. If you are struggling with this insanity that is this journey, and struggling with grieving old relationship, then you're in good company. But I would like to offer everyone out there an opportunity to have a Zoom call, a free Zoom call to talk about loneliness, to talk about relationship, to talk about love. And I'm just putting the feelers out. If you are interested in such a support net for communication of this topic, please comment below. And I will set that up in the next couple of weeks for us. So I will. I am sending absolutely everybody out there all of my love and understanding and compassion for how challenging this process is as we are completely collapsing the old paradigms, the old structures, the old relationships, the old family dynamics, the old cultural systems, as we moved from an old system that is already dead and gone, and move and create from a place that is inverted in almost every way that we could possibly imagine. And we got this. We do got this. But you're still allowed to grieve the old, to grieve the old, and to grieve, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Whatever energy you're feeling, is okay. All of your feelings are important. Remember that. And so we sit in them to transmute them. And I love you. And peace. Peace in.